Hi AP Calculus students. This is the video that's going to pick up where we left off in class today. So we've got a few more topics to talk about when it comes to dealing with limits at infinity. So as your x values tend towards positive or negative infinity. We left off talking about cosine. Cosine is going to have periodic behavior, so it's going to alter back and forth between +1 and -1, or whatever the modified amplitude would be. But it's never going to sit at a single place as you go to positive infinity or negative infinity. So for that reason, if you're just dealing with sine or cosine going to positive infinity, you're not going to have a specific limit. So next up, we want to work with trig functions that look suspiciously like squeeze theorem setups we've seen before. The reason we want to recognize this as a squeeze theorem is because we see that there is a trig function and then there's some other function being multiplied in. In this case, the multiplication is that 1 over x value. So anytime you are working with squeeze theorem, you want to take the function that you know, which is cosine of x, and we know that that value is always going to go in between -1 and +1. At that point, it's just a matter of making the inner expression look like what you're given in the problem. So here we want to go ahead and divide each piece by x, so we'll have -1 over x is equal to the cosine of x, is less than or equal to the cosine of x over x, which is less than or equal to 1 over x. At this point, the bounds now are functions that we can deal with as far as infinite limits. So the first thing I want to do is to take this expression and take its limit as x approaches infinity. Now, like we saw today, we have the ability to not necessarily plug in infinity, because we can't just do that mathematically, but we can understand the tendency of what's going to happen as values approach infinity. So in this case, -1 divided by values that are getting progressively larger or approaching infinity is just going to be 0. Same thing with this expression over here. When we take the limit here as x approaches infinity, what I'm really taking is 1 over infinity, 1 over progressively larger values, which is again going to give me 0. Since this limit is squeezed by functions on each side whose limit values approach 0, then the output for this limit is also 0. All right, guys, next up we have a couple more examples involving, don't know why my screen did that, but next up we've got some limits that involve horizontal asymptotes, but require a little bit more thoughtful analysis than just the identification of asymptotes of polynomial functions. So we talked about 3 cases for simple asymptote identification. If you have the same exponents top and bottom, you just divide your leading coefficients, and that's your asymptote. If you have higher exponents down below, your horizontal asymptote is going to be at y equals 0. And if you have higher exponents up above, you just need to divide the exponents of your highest value up top, highest value down below, and then analyze what the end behavior would be for the resultant polynomial. The area where things get a little bit different when it comes to horizontal asymptotes is going to be when we have radicals or fractional exponents. So when we have radicals and fractional exponents, we have the opportunity where we could end up with more than one horizontal asymptote. So here we have the opportunity where we can have more than one asymptote. So we could have a horizontal asymptote up above at a location here and down below at a location right here. So depending on whether we were tending to positive infinity or to negative infinity, we could end up with different results for the asymptote. So let's take a look at how we would approach solving for these asymptotes analytically. I don't know why PowerPoint decided that it wants to do this dramatic transition, but that's okay. So anytime you have square roots or fractional exponents down on the bottom, you're going to have to consider, based off of the behavior of your fractional exponent or your square root or cubic root, what is going to be the highest valued exponent, either in the numerator or the denominator of your expression. Up top, my highest valued exponent is just x. Down below, I have an x squared, but the x squared is in a square root. So if I have an x squared in a square root, what I really have is an x. So that means that my highest valued exponent down below is x, highest valued up above is also x. So in this case, that's what I'm going to divide all of my terms by. Those certainly are not always going to be the same. I could have an x up top and something like a cubic root of x to the 9th down below, in which case the highest valued exponent is actually x cubed because I'm dividing this number by the number outside of the radical. And the x cubed would be what I also divide the numerator by. So let's go through the analytical process for these limits. If I start off with the first one, going to positive infinity of 9x minus 1 over the square root of 4x squared plus 1, I'm going to go up top and divide each term by that highest exponent. So by x, 9x over x, minus 1 over x. Then down in my denominator, here I'm not going to be dividing by x because I want to keep everything in the square root. So I'm instead going to divide everything by x squared because that's really the same thing as dividing by an x outside of a square root. Now I can go ahead and simplify, and I'll end up with 9 minus 1 over x divided by, here I have the square root of 4 plus 1 over x. Now we just saw this limit, negative 1 over x, and this limit, 1 over x, in the previous example as we go to infinity. Those expressions are going to tend towards 0 because we're dividing progressively higher and higher numbers into them. So here we end up with 9 divided by the square root of 4, which is the same thing as 9 divided by 2, which is the same thing as 4.5. So that's our horizontal asymptote and the limit as we're approaching positive infinity. We want to pay attention carefully to what we plug into when we're going towards negative infinity instead when we're dealing with these kinds of expressions. Here we're going to take the limit as x approaches negative infinity, and we're going to start everything off the same by dividing by the highest valued exponent. So still x minus 1 over x. The issue is when we're dealing with the square root. So our square root value, we have a positive and a negative component. And so in this case, as we tend to positive infinity, we're working with the positive x value. As we tend to negative infinity, we're dealing with the negative x squared value. So what I'm going to plug into the square root is going to be 4x squared divided by the negative root of x squared plus 1 over the negative root of x squared. So what is going to happen, if I think about my rules with square roots here, is that this negative is going to come out in front. So I'm still going to have 9 minus 1 over x, but then what I end up with down here is the negative square root of 4 plus 1 over x squared. So this is then going to simplify to 9 over the negative square root of 4, which is going to be negative 9/2 or negative 4.5. So notice that I have a different horizontal asymptote depending on whether I'm tending to positive infinity or to negative infinity with the expression here. So be careful. Your process here is figuring out what is your highest valued exponent, and that includes analysis of either the fractional exponent or the radical that you have down below. You're dividing all terms by that value. Then, if you're going to positive infinity, you're working with the positive root. If you're going to negative infinity, you're working with the negative outcome. All right, you guys. Then we've got some basic ones. These ones really should have come more towards the beginning because they're some of the easiest ones to work with. But this is just a review of your end behavior. So, anytime you're thinking about even and odd exponents, you want to think about the fact that if you're working with even exponents and they have a positive coefficient, then the behavior, decided to go away again. Okay, if you're dealing with even exponents, that's what I was talking about on the previous slide, what you have is, with a positive coefficient, is going to be end behavior that looks like this. As you go to negative infinity, your values are going to positive infinity. As you go to positive infinity, your y values are going to positive infinity. Negative will look like this for your end behavior trends, not for what's going on in between in the function. Odd with a positive coefficient is going to look like this. With a negative coefficient will look like this for the end behavior analysis. So x to the 5th, that is an odd exponent, and my coefficient in front is positive. So as I go to positive infinity, this guy is also going to positive infinity. So my result here for this limit is just positive infinity. For this limit, same expression, as I go to negative infinity, the end behavior analysis tells me that I am tending down towards negative infinity here. So you can take limits using information about end behavior that you learned back in Algebra 2. Those should be some of the easiest that you do. I want to touch base about the notes slides that wrapped up this presentation. So you can really think about what is going to be involved in your review packet and in your assessment. First thing up is analyzing graphs and tables when it comes to limits. So can you look at a graph and figure out where a limit is, if it exists or not, things like that. And we'll have one or two tables. You really aren't going to do too much tabular analysis of limits either on the review, on the quiz, or on the AP exam. That's really kind of a final or last resort for limit analysis.
May I have your attention, please?
Okay, I'll go ahead and pause for the announcements and I'll send this out, but we'll talk in more detail about all of these topics.